The day I learned about climate change was the day that I realized that it would be my responsibility as an individual to do something to help protect our environment. I didn't know how. Being 12 years old, you kind of feel paralyzed. You feel as if you have this passion, you love the environment, you love the animals, you love wildlife, but you ask yourself, what can you actually do? And so to me, that was the biggest question that I struggled with during my entire educational career. What I would tell any young person that has a passion and wants to build something incredible is to build a community. Find those champions that believe in you, and that no matter how much experience you have, if you have a vision, you can build it. That's how I built Sustainable Ocean Alliance. I didn't have a lot of experience being an entrepreneur. I didn't have a lot of experience in the ocean space, but rather I just had a vision of what our world could look like.
Hola, hola, buenas tardes a todos. Bienvenidos a la celebración virtual del Día Mundial de los Océanos. Mi nombre es Mara Valladolid, soy coordinadora del voluntariado con Kilómetro 1 y hoy tenemos de invitadas a María Villela y a Daniela Fernández. María Villela es manager de la comunidad de One Young World en Latinoamérica. Ahorita se presenta ella. Y Daniela Fernández es la fundadora y CEO de Sustainable Ocean Alliance. También antes de empezar, nada más les quiero mencionar que hoy nuestra presentación va a ser en inglés. So welcome to both of you.
Hello, everyone. So first of all, Mara, thank you so much for the invitation. It is always a pleasure to represent One Young World and just overall strengthening our relationship with Kilómetro Uno. We are so happy and proud to have you be part of our network. And I'm so excited to meet you, Daniela, for the first time. Your resume, your achievements, all of it. It's so impressive, and I'm super excited to have you here.
Thank you so much, Maria, and thank you, Mara, for the invitation. I'm just thrilled to be with you all today.
Okay, so I don't know, we just saw a little presentation of who Daniela Fernandez is and what she works with. And even before giving you a chance to talk a little bit more about that, I want to ask you specifically, what is your connection with the ocean? Or what is just like, what does the ocean mean to you? I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the more like emotional side of it, and then we'll get to the hard details.
Absolutely. Happy to start. And just to also mention, I was born in Quito, so sí hablo español, pero como les dije a las presentadoras, estoy más acostumbrada al inglés y por eso vamos a hacer la presentación en inglés. Pero sí quiero que sepan que nací en Ecuador, and that's where my connection came from in the ocean space, and that I remember being a little girl and going to the beach with my grandma and, just being surrounded by so much beauty and nature, and also being in in Ecuador, where you have the Amazon jungle, when you have mountains, when you're just like always in this amazing ecosystem. I felt like the environment was something so pristine and special to me as a kid that I moved from Ecuador to Chicago when I was 7. And you can imagine the difference from mountains and birds and beauty to a flat city in the middle of the United States. So to me, that was just such a big disconnect. I went from one world to another, and I always kept that beauty of nature in my heart, growing up.
I can imagine what it feels like just to leave that beauty behind and like be so far away from it, because it's something I can't imagine. I live also like right by the ocean. It's something I like to do almost every day, just either to go swim in it, surf, just see it nearby. It's something beautiful. So I can imagine it's tough. So now we want to know, this is your moment to present yourself. Who is Daniela Fernandez? And more from the side of like, how did Sustainable Ocean Alliance come to be, and what exactly is it that you do?
Sure. So to make the connection even stronger around the importance of nature, my favorite animal has always been the penguin. So, when I was in elementary school, and I was just so obsessed with penguins and watching all the penguin movies. And I remember when I was in, I think it was maybe like 5th grade, I was walking home from school and I saw that poster of Al Gore's movie, An Inconvenient Truth. And I hope all of you have seen that movie, but the poster were penguins walking on sand, right? And that to me just didn't make any sense. So I went and ran over to Blockbuster, back when you rented movies from stores. And I got the movie and went home, and I watched this movie at the age of 12. And that's when I learned about climate change, right? And that's when I realized that this was something that was bigger than myself. This was something that was going to affect our generation. And as a kid, I knew that it was going to be my responsibility to do something. So as early as 12 years old, I already knew it was my job to help our planet. But like many young people, I didn't know how. I didn't know what I could do. I was so young. I was immersing myself in environmental courses. I was doing the research on my own, but there was still no real source of information or platform that I could join. So I went through my entire educational career. I got my school solar panels. I fundraised to get that up and running. I became the president of my debate club and try to pass environmental law, whether it was in school. So I was very passionate about the idea of having a tangible impact early on. But again, I didn't really know what I could do. So I then went to Georgetown in Washington, D.C. And my goal was, at least back then, to run for office, because I thought that I could change policy and impact our environment in that way. But what I came to learn was that policy wasn't moving quickly enough. And that oftentimes we needed different sectors to play a role in this space. So I went to Georgetown, and I was invited to a meeting at the UN. And then this UN meeting was all about the ocean. So, you had different foreign dignitaries, ministers, presidents attend this conference. And I found myself being the youngest person in the room, right? Like 19 years old, being surrounded by all these amazing people and feeling so out of place. But that also made me realize that, why am I feeling out of place? Why is my generation not being a part of these really important conversations? I remember asking one of the ambassadors, where's the live stream for this, right? Where's the Twitter handle for this? But there was nothing. It was zero communication to our world. And so that's what made me realize that, one, we need to have more young people included in these very important conversations. And two, we also need to create solutions, right? I was in that conference, and I left so depressed because I was hearing about how much plastic will be in our ocean by the year 2050. I was hearing about the depletion of our fisheries, how, our coral reefs are dying. And no one in the room talked about hope, opportunities, solutions, right? Technology or research, no one. And so as a 19-year-old, you feel as if, how are these people in power? What are they doing that they're not creating solutions? And so I left there trying to understand, how can I build something that would fill in these two gaps of involving young people and creating new solutions.
That's amazing. I just think it's wonderful. Like you said, you started super young, and it was amazing that you had sort of that perspective of realizing, honestly, that not a lot of young people, at least, were involved. I guess every day it's more and more young people that know what's going on, that want to help, that want to be part of all the solution. So I really admire you for that. I don't know if you can also talk to us about what are the main challenges that the ocean faces today, specifically the ocean. We'll ask the same question for a couple of other topics, but right now I want Daniela, and I guess Maria, you can also participate in this one. From your perspectives, from your work, what is the biggest challenge that the ocean faces?
Sure. Maria, you can go first, and I'll just fill in anything you leave out.
Sure. So there are many, there's an endless list of challenges that we can think of when we're talking about this problem, from plastic to mining. There's a wide range of problems. And I think that from the perspective of One Young World, it all comes down to a problem with leadership. And I think Daniela has already mentioned a little bit about this. So at One Young World, we believe that the biggest crisis, the most important problems in the world, always have a leadership problem at their core. So if we keep trying to figure out or if we keep trying to solve the problems with the same type of leadership, old-fashioned leadership, not many things are going to change. So this is not just about enlisting the problems, but also, or creating a list of the problems, but also about how are we going to empower and enable the younger generation that has a ton of passion, of perseverance, and is not afraid of innovation to be able to transform those ideas into action and transform those ideas into actual projects that can be implemented. So for me, the biggest problem or the biggest challenge with the oceans is not just about plastic or climate change, but it's the challenge is how are we going to enable our young leaders so they can have the opportunity to affect change.
I love that, Maria, and you're absolutely right. And the thing I'll add to it is also, how can we have people change the status quo, right? People are so afraid of doing things differently, of disruption, of innovation, and that's why our generation is so it's so special in a way, because we're not afraid of doing things differently, of disrupting new industries, right? Something to keep in mind when we're looking at the climate crisis and climate change in our ocean is that every single industry is ripe for disruption. When you look at the fashion industry, when you look at the transportation industry, the fishing industry, every single industry is currently harming our planet in one way or another. So how can we encourage the development of new business models, of new materials, of new way of living that won't harm our planet, but rather that can restore our planet, or that can live in harmony with our planet? And that's the message that we need to give to young people, and to say, hey, you can be the inventor, the entrepreneur, the leader, right? And you can change the ways things have been working, because clearly the past leadership has gotten us to where we are now, and it is our responsibility to change. So I definitely agree with that answer. And the other thing I'll mention is the importance of bringing climate change into the conversation, because oftentimes when we think about the ocean, we think about the plastic problem. We think of problems that are so visible, right? Problems that you can see and you can grasp. But the reality is that if we don't solve climate change, we are in fact killing our ocean, because our ocean is the world's largest carbon sink. It takes up more carbon in the atmosphere than trees do, right? It also gives us oxygen, right? So we have right now the problem in that we are building more acidity in our ocean. We're changing the pH levels of our ocean, which means that fish can no longer live in those acidic and harmful environments. And so in reality, we're at the potential of a biodiversity catastrophe, because we're really putting their livelihoods in danger. So making that connection between climate and ocean is really important for us to talk about too.
I really like that, and it actually reminds me of one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, because when I think about the environment, I think that we have to, or that we have opportunity to create a new narrative around the environment. Because recently I was exploring this concept of being an imperfect environmentalist. Like, maybe I'm vegan, but maybe I didn't recycle my water bottle, for instance. So sometimes we feel like we're doing the best that we can, but it's not enough, because we did one thing, but we're not doing the other. So I wanted to hear your thoughts about the narrative around the environment in general, because how do we make it engaging and not depressing for people to be part of this movement, and to be encouraged and not disappointed when they come in and they see the state of things?
I can't agree more about the importance of just changing, how people grasp it. I would say that first, starting from the mentality of you shouldn't just protest things, right? Like, it's not just about being an activist. It's not about being angry and, like shouting at government or corporations. It's really about taking that responsibility that I felt I had to take as a 12-year-old, right? And seeing like what areas of your life can you change, right? Like how can you play a big role in your own personal choices and your lifestyle? So I like to think about it as like lifestyle activism as opposed to, like screaming in the streets activism, which, obviously it's important sometimes, but to your point, it's about, really taking a hard look at your actions and understanding like what can you do? And also how can you help bring others into the table? That's, I think, the most important role of an individual is to influence people. Is to, talk to your parents, talk to your cousin, talk to your friends, post that you have a voice, you have to use it. There are so many people out there that don't have the opportunity to really speak up and to share their insights and ideas. And now that we're living in this age of social media, we can, tweet in a second, we can post in another second and just share the word and, really spread the message, which is live sustainably, like acting however you can. And if you don't want to be a leader in this space, right, you can go and get a job as a designer or as a finance person, working for a company that is doing good. It doesn't just mean that you have to be an entrepreneur, right? Like every person has their own path and their own journey. You just have to find a way to contribute. So really putting that question into people's mind, like what can your contribution be, is really important.
I think I really like what you say about just like inviting anyone to help, because I've always liked this phrase, and I guess I like to live by it, if you could say, that one person can't do everything, but everyone can do a little bit. And I guess that's just, it summarizes all these ideas that we're talking about of, it can be people from, I guess it's also a matter of an understanding that anything and everything we do can affect the environment in any way, either what we eat, what we wear, where we go to, everything. So it's just a matter of unity, of uniting people from all different sectors and artists and teachers and activists and everything. So everyone just adds a little bit to this great cause of, I guess, just helping the world. So I really like both of your answers and both of your perspectives of this, that again, one person can't do everything, but everyone can do a little bit to add to this idea of just helping.
That's right, Mara. And I would also add, it's about questioning and it's about challenging people, right? Like, I kid you not, when I go to a store and they're giving me a plastic bag, I'm like, don't you have a cardboard bag? Like, why are you using plastic? And I have a conversation with the person who's in charge. And then I talk to the manager and I ask them, hey, how are you not thinking about this differently? So I also think that oftentimes we as individuals just settle for what we're given instead of really pushing back to restaurants or to corporations or to companies and saying, you can do better. And we expect of you, to do better and to help us, have this fight towards our planet. So I would encourage you, if it's like one thing that you change in your life, in day to day, is just challenge the restaurant you go to, challenge, the person that like cuts your hair that's using, like plastic or whatever it is, but it's really about not settling for what people are telling you the world should look like, but making it your own.
Yeah, also because it's, I guess it's part of just like the comfort zone we're in it's so easy just to get a plastic bag, or I forgot my bottle at home, so I'm just going to buy a plastic bottle. But it's part of just like challenging, like you said, other people. And I also love the idea of sometimes we can change the behavior, the ideas of one person, or it can be a million people. But again, it's just like little by little, we're going to be building up to a greater cause.
And Daniela, I do have another question for you. I'm curious to know, have you ever experienced eco-anxiety, like feeling super overwhelmed by how the world has deteriorated, the state of the oceans, the state of climate change? Have you ever experienced that? And what would be your advice for young activists and young leaders that are just starting this path? And they may start this path with a very hopeful heart, but they may face very challenging situations that could be discouraging. So how do we tackle eco-anxiety? How do we keep this perseverance that you have already shown?
Well, I don't think that's ever going to go away, to be honest. I think that in reality, we're always going to experience it because it's what is happening to our natural world, right? It is deteriorating, like things aren't getting better. The power comes in channeling that anxiety into energy, right? And channeling that into determination to do something. And so every time I face that anxiety, either after watching a documentary or after reading a new study that comes out, it actually inspires me. It makes me feel as if things are so bad that I need to act right now and I need to do something now. And I need to make a mark to help our planet and our ocean. So I would say it's a mentality shift from being, sad or depressed about it to saying, okay, this is what is happening. This is the reality. What am I going to do to leave a legacy behind and help be a solution towards this? And I think that mentality shift of being optimistic and of being practical as to what steps I can take has just helped me so much instead of simply, being sad about it or being anxious about it. It's like taking all that energy that can be negative and just putting it into positivity, right? And looking at the bright spots. I wake up every morning and I see new young leaders joining. I see new entrepreneurs with new technologies. Like there's so much hope out there. So also being reminding myself of hope exists, new technology exists. We have legislation that is passing. And for us and for our generation, I do think that we're entering this new frontier, this revolution, because people are now not only talking about the environment, but are actually like putting, money where their mouth is or putting legislation where their mouth is. So now our challenge is to come up with more solutions, right? Because what's happening is there's money being deployed or money being pledged, but where is it going to go? If we don't have enough solutions, where's that money headed? So I believe that we need to start thinking about building new projects, new initiatives right now, once we have the time, because in the future, there's going to be so much opportunity, so much funding out there. It just doesn't have the place to go at the moment.
And I do want to emphasize, because it's something that already touched me, your idea of just like realizing what reality is and the question of like, what can I do about it? It was something that you did mention. That's how Sustainable Ocean Alliance started. So I just find it amazing that Sustainable Ocean Alliance is already something so big with such huge impact that started just like from that one idea. And I guess it's just admirable how anyone can do that. Anyone can have just like, okay, I understand this is happening. I know what's going on. I want to help too. What can I do about it? So it's just an approach that it's the beginning to a great change. So I don't know if you want to comment anything else about that. If not, we can move on to the next question. So let me know.
I would love to, yes. And what I would say is something also that I don't think I talk enough about, but I need to, is that I come from a low income background, right? Like I was an immigrant in the U.S. Like I didn't come from wealth. I didn't have money to to start a nonprofit. Like I literally built this from nothing. And so I want to share that because I think a lot of people think that they need to, have money or they need to, come from a well-educated family, like to do something. And the reality is that like, my story, I hope, is an inspiration to other people, because the way I built SOA is really from, being educated and asking questions and meeting people, knocking on doors and not settling, no matter what people told me, no matter how challenging, it was to build a nonprofit. Or I remember when I was in DC, people told me that I was crazy, that I should go get a job, that I should do my time in the corporate world and then make money and then donate it. But I just have this vision and this confidence that I believe in myself and I believe in my idea. And that's something that I think anyone can develop. You don't need money for that. You don't need the education for that. You just need this self-awareness, this ability to believe in yourself. And that's something that I know everyone can develop, and then go from there and then knock on doors. Don't give up and build your project, because you have it in you. You just have to, work on it.
So you just gave me a big entrance to what my next questions are. I guess it's just all these factors that I do want you to talk a little bit more about it and give us your answer to. I asked what the main challenge of the ocean was. Now I want you to talk a bit about your experience. What was your biggest challenge or your biggest challenges as a woman, Latin woman, and just like what was your biggest challenge as, like I said, women, Latin women, and as a young person too? If you can talk a little bit more about the details on that.
Definitely. So like I already briefly mentioned, it was having credibility of being able to go to a person and say, I have this idea, and this person saying it's a bad idea, and me not being discouraged by what this person thinks. And so that happened a lot in the early days of SOA, where I had, for example, I had the idea of putting together a summit at my university, and I wanted to bring in Sylvia Earle, I wanted to bring in John Kerry, I wanted to bring in the CEO of National Geographic. And again, people thought I was crazy because they asked me, why would these people come to this event? Like, they don't know who you are, they don't know what SOA is. But I still believe that they would come because the next generation needed to hear from them, and they were not speaking to young people, at least at the time. So we got those people to come to the summit. Sylvia Earle was our keynote speaker. We had Gary Nell, our closing. Secretary Kerry, then came on as well, and he was a partner to me and to SOA later on. So I think that the challenge was really gaining the credibility, and the way that I approached that was never. I would say take advice, and advice is important, especially from mentors and people that know, but don't let them dissuade you from what you believe in your gut and what you think you can accomplish. Because even if a person that you're looking up to has experience, has, the pedigree, has the education, they may not share your same mentality or the way you see the world. And I see the world very differently than a lot of people. And just coming to terms with that and having the self-awareness of knowing myself and knowing what I was willing to sacrifice to work that hard to get there. That's the other thing that I would mention, is that people told me it's going to be really hard. Like, you shouldn't do it. Like, people fail. But I wasn't afraid of failing, because I didn't come from anything. So what's the worst that can happen if I fail, right? I could just get a job at a restaurant and, and start again. So not being afraid of failing, that's another big lesson that I learned throughout my life, is think about like the worst possible case scenario that can happen, and just go for it, because all you can do is learn from that mistake or learn from that, failure, and then grow from it, and get more momentum and accelerate your progress towards your idea or vision.
I love your story, and I love hearing from you, because I just get that inspiration, and it makes me feel like I can do anything as well. I want to emphasize something from hearing your story. What I'm hearing from you is a lot of resilience, and what I also get is that you had a clear vision. And I think this is an important message for any young leader, no matter their field. They could be working in environment, they could be working in gender equality, no matter the field. When you take a moment to really create that vision, to transform your passion into a journey, into a goal, when you hear comments that are not adding value to that journey, when you knock on doors and they don't answer, you have more power to keep going. And I think Daniela is a great example of this, because you mentioned how since you were little, you transformed this anxiety into a responsibility, then into a mission, and that is driving you up to this day, right? And I think that for us as young leaders, no matter what we want to do with our lives, no matter the cause that we want to fight or that we want to affect change, if we take that moment to really build that vision and be loyal to that vision, and yes, grow, listen to feedback, and meet new mentors, that's all adding to your journey. But being able to distinguish what is adding value and what isn't it's going to be critical. So you can be true to yourself, true to your cause, and so you can also build resilience. So I think that's a great example of that. And I hope that, people will feel the inspiration from you that I'm feeling. It's really wonderful to hear another Latin American woman being so resilient, so powerful, and just getting that empowerment from your own story. That's incredible.
Thank you, Maria. And the other thing about being a woman, many times I've been told that I'm intimidating to people, right? And I don't know, like maybe I can be, but the reality is that maybe is that just because I'm a woman and I'm not a man that, speaking in certain ways. So I also think that you have to have enough self-confidence and you have to have enough self-esteem to just be who you are and not apologize for it and not be concerned what people think. I remember, I think it was in high school where I just decided I'm not going to care what people think because they're not living my life. They're not living my story. And that reality, I think helped me mature in a much faster way, that I just stopped caring what others believed or thought about me. And I just did. And I did me. I did whatever I thought was right for myself. So really spending time on the vision of your project, like Maria said, in whatever field you're in, but also taking time to know yourself. I cannot, overemphasize that. You need to know what you're willing to sacrifice, who you are, what your values are, who you want to be in this world, because once you know that to your core, no one can take it away from you. Not a funder that turns you down, not someone who wants to steer in the wrong direction, not a person who comments, badly in your Instagram post. No one can take that away from you because you know in your heart who you are, who you want to be as a leader, as a person. So that would be another piece of advice that I would give to people.
And just what an inspiration to hear, like what you had to go through, what you had to learn, either the easy way or the tough way. It's just something that I hope everyone listening or everyone who listens to this gets a little bit of that message of just starting their own journey too, starting their own journey to what they want to do, how they want to help, and how they want to contribute to this. So again, thank you for that answer. And I want to continue with the next question of, it's a little bit of a change of topic, but what is your most memorable anecdote or moment of your organization's work, of SOA, of your experience with the ocean? I don't know if you can talk to us a little bit about that too, please.
Yes, so I'll give you a story. I remember in 2018, we were putting on a conference in partnership with the European Union. And this was a conference for the Our Ocean Conference. So what SOA does is we partner with the respective governments. We partner with the U.S. Department in 2016. We partner with the European Union and so forth. And we bring our young leaders to these, high-level convenings. And I remember where, I was very stressed out because we had to bring 100 young people to this event. We were putting on the conference. And at the time, it was just me and 2 volunteers. I didn't have a lot of people helping me. And we had to put on this whole conference. And, it was at the end of the day. And I was just running around like a crazy person, like just feeling stressed. And I remember one of our young leaders coming to me at the end of the conference, just like with tears in her eyes. And she just hugged me. And she just said, "Thank you." And I just like stood and I'm like, "For what?" And she's like, "You gave me a family. You gave me a community because I thought I was alone in this. I didn't know these people existed." And so to me, that was just, I have goosebumps talking about it. It just was a reminder of how, if there's anything that I did, I changed that one person's life. And to me, that was it. Like, to me, that was the most fulfilling thing that I knew I was doing through SOA, is I'm not only trying to help save our ocean, but in reality is the work that we're doing is changing people's lives, is changing the way that they see themselves, is giving them the power and the opportunity to be a different person, right? To actually become a leader in their own right. And I'll never forget that, because every time I feel stress or feel anxiety of running a nonprofit or being a CEO of, raising millions of dollars, that, again, whole other story of like, no one teaches you how to fundraise, by the way. But I always go back to that moment of that hug I felt and the tears I felt, and just knowing that one, young girl, like, could have a family and could not feel alone anymore. Like, that meant the world to me.
I think that's a great point. Sometimes when we think about nonprofits, we don't think about the collateral benefits that this can bring, and it is the fact that we're building community and we're helping young people find a purpose in something that is enriching, something that can make them feel fulfilled and provides new experiences and helps them grow as people. I think that and this is something that I've learned in One New World, is that there is power in community. Sometimes when we start this journey, all naive and hopeful, we don't realize that sometimes the journey of changing the world may feel a little bit lonely. But then you come across with people like Daniela, with people like Mara, like Orlando, and you realize that you're not alone, that these insane thoughts that you have of being positive and optimistic and thinking that, yes, this is going to work out, you're not alone in that. And that's a positive consequence of taking the challenge of running a nonprofit or being part of a nonprofit that sometimes we don't think about. Sometimes we think about impacting numbers and return of investments and dollars and all of that. And wow, how do we measure the inspiration that we provide to people? How do we measure making people feel part of the community and feeling that they're living a purpose-driven life instead of just, a normal life? So I think that's a great anecdote. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that this idea of the importance of being part of a network or being part of a community just for the sake of support and knowing that you're not alone, that is it's unmeasurable.
Yeah, and I guess it sounds beautiful. It sounds just amazing what you experience, what you're doing to other people. And again, it's thank you to both of you in the fact that Sustainable Ocean Alliance and One Young World, they're both community as well as Kilómetro Uno. I guess we all have the same intention of building up a bigger community, a bigger family, all with the same goal, all with the same good intentions of all educating more people, inviting more people to be part of. So it's just, again, thank you for what you both do for all this work. So I don't know if, Maria, you have another question for Daniela or anything else you want to add?
So actually, I think that somebody asked a question in social media about the most important issue at the border for our oceans. If you want to take a look at the comments, there's a question from the audience. If you want to take a look into that.
Give me 1 second. Again, to all of you guys watching, you can leave all the questions you want in the comments. I guess that's something I forgot to mention at the beginning. But specifically for that question, just give me 1 second.
Yeah, it came through Facebook just in case. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so first to read it out loud to everyone. What do you think is the most important issue at the border for our oceans? I don't know if, Daniela, you want to give a little bit of an answer to this. I know you're not at the border right now, but what can you imagine that is something we face? And then we'll continue on to add up to an answer. Or Maria, also, if you want to give any information to this.
Well, what I will say is that coastal resiliency is something that is very important because when you look at 70% of the world's population will live in coastal cities, the next few years. And so we have to figure out a way to protect, those coastal cities from rising sea levels, right? From erosion, from natural disasters. You look at what happened in the Bahamas in 2019. It was one of the worst category storms in the area. And, more than 80% of the island was underwater and it was, destroyed. And the reason was because the reefs were not doing their job of protecting against these big storms. And it all comes back to how can we restore marine life? How can we restore new ecosystems and make them resilient? Because we as people are going to be the ones affected at the end of the day by the lack of infrastructure, by the lack of investment that we're putting into the water. Something that is making me really excited is the European Union is putting out some potential policies around tying their GDP to the restoring of nature in their specific states. And that is like magnificent, because now we can have a value, a worth of restoring our infrastructure that governments haven't really thought about before. So I would really say is around like natural solutions, like how can we build more mangroves? How can we plant more seagrasses? How can we give the ocean the oxygen life, enable it to continue being that carbon sink for us? Is a really important question.
If I can add into that, just thinking about the Latin American context, when we think about coast in Latin America, some of the people that live in the coasts are some of the most of the poorest people, and that lack resources. And something that we have to keep in mind when at least here in Latin America, when we're thinking about policy, when we're thinking about projects, anything that can impact the coast, even if it's for sea preservation, we have to think about partnering with the people that actually live there, and that their whole livelihood depends on the sea. Either that's fishing or tourism or anything else, because sometimes, at least here, and again, I'm talking with based on my experience with Latin American issues. Sometimes we can make decisions, we can try to implement projects, but if we don't engage with the people that actually live there, that their livelihoods depend on it, then we may be affecting those towns, those populations in ways that we don't even imagine. So I think that's also an important issue that we can't leave behind. We have to think about sea preservation and think about those that live right next to it. How are we engaging with them? How are we sharing opportunities to learn, to talk with each other, and not just propose changes or policies? Now, Daniela, I do have another question for you. So I saw that the SOA had an event related to sea mining in Latin America. And now that we're talking about Latin America, I wanted to ask you about this. So can you tell us a little bit of what is going on and what would be the potential problems with sea mining in our region?
Absolutely. So what's happening right now is that there's a lot of companies that are trying to get licenses from the UN to mine the ocean for commercial use. And what that means is that, as I'm sure all of you know, we already have mining problems in mountains and in regions, and we have deforestation that's happening. And now, because they're almost out of resources and minerals, or that's what they're claiming, they're trying to take that destructive behavior into our ocean. And what's going to happen is that we don't really understand the deep sea. We don't have enough information. One fun fact that I should share is that we know more about outer space, about the other planets, than we know about the ocean. And that to me is the most ridiculous thing in the world, because we have access to our ocean. We can get to the ocean by walking to it, to the boats, and yet we know more about outer space because there's not enough research or science information around it. So that to say, what's happening is if we go forth with these licenses to mine the ocean, it's like deploying a nuclear bomb into our ocean. We're going to completely kill any, species, and the survival of them looks very minimal. So we need to do our best to convince these country states to vote against these licenses, at least until we better understand the science behind it, the technology, how they're going to go about it, instead of just giving them an open license to just go do anything they want in our ocean, which is very dangerous to all of us, and especially in Latin America, given that we have so much biodiversity and pristine land. And And it really is going to take our generation to speak up and be against this, because they're robbing us of our future if we're allowing them to mine the seabed and not leaving anything behind. And it's terrifying to think about the repercussions. So that's something that we're definitely doing a big campaign against seabed mining, and asking for a 10-year moratorium, meaning that they can't mine for 10 years until we do the necessary investigations on the deep sea.
And are there any ways that people that are watching, or volunteers at Kilómetro Uno or at One in World, is there anything that we can do from our end to share or to provide more visibility to what's going on? I don't know if maybe you guys have any type of campaign or anything that we can participate.
Yes, we absolutely have a campaign. So what we're doing is, one, we're just spreading the word about this problem, because most people don't even know it's a thing. So having your help and your support in doing that will mean a lot. Two, it's also about talking to corporations. For example, when you have Apple, you have the iPhones. They're one of the most innovative and the most influential, companies, and they're using recycled products to build cell phones, and that's amazing. And so why are other companies that may not be as innovative and as large getting the excuse to use these materials that are in the ocean? So it's also about educating industry that the customers don't want the minerals that are coming from the ocean to be used for technology. And then we do have some petitions that are specifically targeted towards ministers that will go out and vote for these laws to pass or not. So I definitely encourage you to go to our website. We have a deep sea mining campaign on there, and check out the information. I can also share that with you offline.
Yeah, sounds perfect. I'll be happy to share in our social media as well.
Thank you.
And also, just to mention, right here below us, you can see both the usernames to Daniela's media, especially, I guess, SO Alliance is where you just communicate everything you need to. And also, it's just so cool. I don't have any other words to say how you understand that. I guess a lot of people, if not the majority, don't really question all these things you just mentioned. So your initiative, your gesture of just educating, of informing other people, it really is just like the beginning or the seed to them understanding what's going on and feeling motivated to also helping and looking around for more ways to contribute. So it's just, again, I can't stop saying thank you for everything you do.
Thank you. No, that means a lot to me. And for folks that are watching, definitely reach out. Like, I'm very active on Instagram, so I'm at DV Fernandez. And what I'm going to start doing is, now that I have a little bit more time, and I'll explain why I have more time, is now I have a bigger team, so I can dedicate more of my time and in being more helpful to young people and entrepreneurs that want to communicate. And so if you all have any questions specifically, I'm going to create more content around like how to become an entrepreneur and give more advice and stories and ideas on that. So please do reach out and send me any questions you might have through Instagram.
So we all appreciate it. And again, just moving on to the next question. I find this one personally one of like the most interesting ones. What would you say to 19-year-old Daniela? With everything you've been through, all the experiences you've had, what would you say to 19-year-old Daniela?
I would just say trust your instincts, because it still is a hard journey, and you question yourself, every step of the way. Especially now that I have, a team and that I have to make a lot of decisions, and I sometimes question, whether I'm taking the right path or making the right decision. But it always comes back to my gut and what I feel in my bones and my heart that is the right thing to do. And I've learned to go, to really trust my instincts. So I would tell my 19-year-old self to not question too much, not stress too much, and just like listen to your heart and listen to, what you have inside of you, because that's your guiding factor. And if you don't follow your passion and your love, or even your frustration, right, towards like what's happening in the environment, then why are you doing the work you're doing, right? So really following what's coming from like your heart is the most important thing to me.
And also, Maria, I don't know if you want to add to anything that she just mentioned.
Oh, sure. What I would tell my 19-year-old self is that um, you have no idea all the places that you'll visit. You have no idea of all the people that you'll meet. And all I can say is that you have to enjoy every single moment and just stay present in the moment. Enjoy that reality. I think that when I was 19, I was super shy. I was super insecure. I didn't think much of myself, and a few years later, I went to One Young World, and it just completely changed my life. Um, After I went to One Young World, I realized that I wanted to do something, that I had the potential to do something, and that's where my leadership career at One Young World started. That was back in 2016. So I really had no idea how much traveling I was going to do. I really had no idea all of the amazing people that I was going to meet, all the amazing stories that I was going to listen to, and but it's easy to be overwhelmed of being surrounded by very talented and inspiring people. It could be a little bit intimidating to meet somebody like Daniela or like you, Mara, and when you're shy and you're insecure and you're just like getting to know yourself and building that identity, it can be intimidating. But if you just focus on just living the moment, staying present, you will start to see people as humans and not just as idols or intimidating figures, but just as human beings that are deeply flawed, just like you are, but that want to do something, and that they have also developed all of that self-compassion, that they have also developed resilience, and that they keep going. And at the end of the day, they become your family, they become your friends, they become your network. And together, we keep walking and we keep moving and we keep making things happen. So yeah, I think that would be my message to 19-year-olds.
Yeah, and it's just because it is all these people that you mentioned, that some can be intimidating, some have done more things than you have and everything. It all comes back to we're all a team. We all want the same thing. We all want to help the oceans, the environment, the world in every way. So it's also understanding that, like I said, we are a team. And I guess both of your answers go to the idea of trusting the process. So again, to young people or older people, girls, boys, anyone, it's just trust your process. And also just like to continue with this idea, Daniela and also Maria, what is a message you would give to the youth in general about all this topic?
I was reading Julieta's message, you guys. Sorry about that. Thank you, Julieta. No, we're so happy that you're inspired, and you definitely can do more. I'll let you, Maria, go first while I gather my thoughts. I was just so excited to read her comments.
Absolutely. So my message to young people in general is that if you want to tackle any problems related to the environment or to any other cause, first of all, develop a lot of self-compassion. At the end of the day, you're going to do the best that you can under the circumstances with the tools and the resources that you have. You don't need a whole lot of money or a huge team to start. First of all, you need to have a vision. You need to have a goal, and after that, just at the end of every day, just remember that you're doing the best that you can. And if you have any ideas, any projects, anything that you want to share with the world, remember that we have One Young World available. One Young World is a network of people from all over the world that want to do something to affect positive change in their communities. And every year we host a summit. This year is going to be in Munich. But next year is going to be in Tokyo. And every year we put out scholarships and awards, and just opportunities for you guys to apply, share your ideas, share your projects, and potentially become part of our community. So yes, that's my message. At the end of the day, just remember that you're doing the best that you can. And I'm sure that all of you guys will do amazing things in whichever path that you choose.
Thank you, Maria. I love that response. And what I will add is you're not alone. Julieta, you're definitely not alone. We're all on this journey together. And don't get discouraged. No matter what happens, no matter who comes into your life, no matter what door get closed, the worst thing that can happen is someone says no and you move on and you keep working toward your idea or your goals. And also it's build community, find people that are like-minded, find people that can support you, that can mentor you, that can believe in you, because the most amazing feeling in the world is when I know you guys have a team right now that are putting this event together, is where, you finish an event, you finish something, you finish a big project, and you're just smiling because you love the people that you're surrounded by. So find, those friends, find those colleagues that just make you feel good about the work you're doing, because whatever accomplishments you have at the end of the day don't mean anything if you don't have family, if you don't have people that you care about, that you trust, that you love. So really think about who you're working with and who you want to associate yourself with as you're building your projects, because it's definitely part of the journey.
And before moving on to the questions from the public, I guess, Daniela, you already mentioned how we can contact you via your social media. But I also want to ask you, Maria, how can we get in contact, or like you said, apply to be part of One Young World? I don't know if you can give us a little bit of insight of how to get there.
So we post all of our opportunities at oneyoungworld.com/scholarships. But you also can find us in Instagram and in Twitter as One Young World Latam, like Latin America. And we also post any opportunities there. The next summit is in July, so most of our scholarships have already closed, but soon we're going to start posting the opportunities to attend the Tokyo summit next year. So oneyoungworld.com, and on Instagram you can find us as One Young World Latam.
And then also, if I might add, for SOA, we do have microgrant opportunities. So we do give funding from $1,000 to $10,000 away to your youth leaders to have a project. So if you do have a project in mind, if you have an idea, definitely sign up to be an SOA Young Leader. You'll have access to our mentorship network. You'll have access to education, to funding, anything we can do to support you in that journey. And you can find that at soalliance.org.
Thank you. And while moving on to the questions that we see in the comments, right now we can see one here below us. And it's basically, I don't know if you feel more comfortable answering it, or I know you feel more comfortable answering it in English, but if you want to try in Spanish, she asks how you see yourself 20 years from now with everything you do at work, what's your vision and everything. I don't know if, Daniela, you can move forward with this one.
Yes, well, my vision has always been to leave a world behind that doesn't harm our environment, right? And to me, it's feasible and it's possible because we have the technology, we have the human capacity, we have the intelligence to make that shift. And the role that I see myself playing in that is being that platform, right? Being that catalyst to enable people to find themselves, to realize their potential, to give them everything they need to make their dreams become a reality. Because if they're successful, then that means our planet is successful. And that's what really matters to me. So in the next 20 years, I honestly hope that SOA doesn't exist because our ocean is healed. And I think that's the goal of any social entrepreneur, is that your nonprofit is no longer in service because the problems have been fixed. But I genuinely believe that we have the ability to accomplish this, and if we can all work together to rebuild our society and to rebuild the infrastructure that we're currently living in, by building new innovations, new projects, and a new way of relating to one another as human beings. That also comes down to what I envision doing, and just continuously to scale, to build SOA into a larger organization, to bring in more people into the fold, to give out more funding, more investment dollars. So I just see us scaling and just, getting more people involved as much as we can.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. Again, I just don't know if you want to add anything else, any other last message you want to give to the people out there, either Daniela or Maria. If not, I guess it's about time we start wrapping it up.
Well, I just want to thank you, Mara, for hosting us. I want to thank Kilómetro Uno and Orlando Nata for the invitation. And Daniela, thank you so much for your candor. Thank you so much for your honesty in showing the obstacles that you have overcome, but also the achievements. I think your story is so inspiring, and I just feel so grateful for this moment, for having the opportunity of being here and listening to you talk. It has been an amazing opportunity. So I want to thank you both so much for that.
Thank you. Y también muchas gracias a todos y espero que en verdad sigan sus sueños, sigan sus pasiones, porque necesitamos a cada uno de ustedes que se unan a este movimiento.
And again, just because we just received a really good question, I want to read it out loud, and then I guess it's going to be the last one. How do you think it would be the appropriate way to tell people about this situation that is happening with the oceans? And it may be that they do not care as much, but how can we make them really care and see that it is a problem that sooner or later is going to impact and affect every one of us?
Well, the best way to make people realize the impact is relating it to themselves, right? To make it a human problem as opposed to an environmental problem. And, the one thing I usually say in conferences is, think about every other breath you take comes from the ocean. And that's something that people don't know. They think that all of our oxygen comes from trees, but in reality, our ocean supplies 50% of our oxygen. So no matter where you live, even if you don't see an ocean near you, the ocean's still supplying your livelihood. And if the ocean goes, we can't survive on 50% of oxygen as human beings. So maybe relating that oxygen aspect of it, relating the fact that, fish are the primary source of protein for 3.1 billion people on the planet. And if we deplete fish and we can't find that source of protein, what are 3.1 billion people going to eat? If they eat fish, what happens if their fish is filled with microplastics from the ocean? That toxic level is going to enter their body and they're going to get sick. So really think about relating every single ocean problem for people that may not necessarily care for the environment about themselves, right? Making it about their problem. You can't have oxygen, you can't have food, you can't swim, you can't go to the beach and enjoy the ocean. Then think about how you can make that a human problem instead of an environmental one.
Thank you. Again, just one last time, I really appreciate your transparency, all of the stories you're telling us behind of what you've been through, because at least speaking for myself, I really think that you have a very optimistic way of understanding the whole situation, but it's also very stuck to reality, to the fact that you know what's going on, you understand, and you fight towards it. So it's to both of you, thank you, Daniela, Maria, for everything you do, for everything you've talked about right now. And just to start wrapping it up, I want to ask you, we always like to take a picture from Kilómetro Uno. I don't know if you know, but the number 1 is our go-to sign. So if we can just take that picture before starting to conclude everything. Let's get ready for that. Perfect. So thank you so much. That's already with us for the memory of it. And again, thank you both. Thank both of you for your time, for your ideas, for your messages, for inspiring everyone that's watching, for inspiring me and Kilómetro Uno. I don't know if you want to give any last words.
Muchas gracias, Mara, y muchas gracias a todos los que nos escucharon, que nos acompañaron por las 2 transmisiones de YouTube y de Facebook. Aquí estamos para lo que necesiten. Muchas gracias y mucho gusto en conocerte, Dani, también.
Yo también, muchas gracias a todos. Y sí, lo que necesiten, contáctenos para hacer algo juntos. Gracias.
Muchas gracias. Y pues ahora sí, para ya concluir esta transmisión, regreso al español. Muchísimas gracias de parte, pues igual de Kilómetro 1, de María, de Daniela, de One Young World, de Sustainable Ocean Alliance, de todos. En serio, muchas gracias por conectarse. Y pues los invitamos a mañana para continuar con la celebración virtual del Día Mundial de los Océanos. Mañana tendremos a Chris Jordan, que también es un activista, un artista que nos va a inspirar a muchísimo de nosotros. Y pues sí, los invitamos a la misma hora, a las 7 de Tijuana, para seguir, como dije, con toda esta celebración. Entonces sí, muchísimas gracias de nuevo por su tiempo, por su todo, y bonita noche a todos.